The Mash and Soul podcast starts now. Welcome to the Mash and Soul podcast. I'm your host, Mash, and with me is my co-host, Soul. We have a great show today. We're going to talk a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk college basketball. We're going to get into NBA, college football, and NFL. I'm going to get right into it. A lot of big stories broke this week. I'm going to start off with college basketball, and what's been going on with the NCAA investigation. So, Bill Self, the coach at Kansas, future Hall of Fame coach, was accused of giving a go-ahead payment to an Adidas consultant of $20,000 to one of his players. And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm not shocked at all. College basketball is one of the most corrupt sports in this country, if not the most corrupt. I used to work at a place called 5 Star Basketball, and one of the biggest jokes was, if you run an operation like Bill Self, you can win national championships too. That was a big joke, because it was well known then that the Markieff Morris, and this is a rumor, but the Markieff Morris and Marcus Morris, they got paid $70,000 each to go to Kansas. This was well known. This was a big rumor. Everyone in the basketball circle, they knew this. And these weren't the only players getting paid, and these weren't the only players getting paid by Kansas. See, where there's smoke, there's fire. This doesn't happen with every coach. You know, I've been waiting for years for this to happen to Bill Self, because you don't hear this about Mark Few. You don't hear this about Jay Wright. You don't hear this about Chris Mullin, because they do things the right way. And let's not get it twisted, all right? Bill Self and these other coaches who have pays these players, and it's pure corruption. That's what it is. They're not doing this to benefit the players. They're doing this to benefit themselves, to make more money, and to win championships. And this is why this week the G League introduced that they're going to pay elite prospects $120,000 each. Very smart move by the NBA. Very smart move. You know, I love college basketball, but the product has gone down over the last few years. And one of the reasons is the one and done rule. And this could be the beginning of the end of college basketball. This could be the beginning of that. And I'm okay with that. Even though it sucks, it's just something that needs to be done. Because when the NCAA investigation came out, all these top prospects were named in it. It looks so bad for the NBA. It looks so bad when all your top players like DeAndre Ayton is being called out saying, hey, he took money. It looks really bad for marketing and their product. So Adam Silver and the NBA had to do this because they gave the NCAA a chance, right? They were like, all right, we gave you control over our young prospects, but you know what? You did a piss poor job. We're going to take the control back, and we're going to take control of the G League, and we're going to develop it. And it's a very good move, and it's something that needed to be done, because in any form, you can't have corruption. You just can't. Whether you believe that the players should get paid or not, law is law, and the coaches who contribute to this and participate this are breaking the law, and they deserve to be punished for their wrongdoing. So that's my take on all this. We're going to transition to NBA. NBA started this week. Soul, I know you're a big Knicks fan like me. And the Knicks had a big win against a very bad team, but it was still a win. What'd you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, a win's a win, right? No matter what, how you take it, how you can. And hey, man, putting up 126 points opening night, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And, you know, I think as far as expectations for, like, the Knicks in general, I mean, I just think it's been flat for a number of years, right? And to see them come out, you know, with a really good performance, Obviously a lot of the young guys. I mean, obviously Tim Hardaway Jr. was the leading scorer, and I think that's kind of expected. But they had some good performances from some young guys, and including. So this is the thing. I didn't even heard of this guy, Trier. Is he an undrafted free agent? Am I right?
Alonzo Trier? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, but your cousin Mo, he's been talking about him.
Yes, nonstop.
He's been that's all he's been doing, and we've been ignoring him. No one responds when he talks about Trier. No one responds, right?
Because 98% of the time, it usually is complete smoke.
Because he says this about every player all the time, like, yo, it's great. But he's showing something, right? He's showing something, and he may be a good role player. Which, when you get a good role player in like the second round or undrafted, that's always a good thing. That's when you want to get those guys. He scored 15 points in his first game, really good. The thing about this team is they're actually kind of deep. I know they don't have Porzingis. They also won without Porzingis, but they have some guys off the bench I like. I like Knox. I like Vonleh. That's he's a very young guy. Hizonja, I was a big fan of him coming out. So these guys are still they can still develop. They still haven't hit their prime. I hate Ron Baker. I mean, I hate him. I hopefully Trier is going to take all his minutes. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see Baker anymore. He's done. I know what he can do. He sucks, right? So I like the core of the if Porzingis comes back, they have a chance to be a playoff team. But again, I'm not so sure that's the best thing. If I was a Knicks, I think they gotta just sit him the whole season and get a high draft pick. But it's encouraging, and they're actually playing the Nets right now. The score right now is 65-61. Nets have the lead. So we'll see. It's a competitive game. It's the middle of third. We'll see what happens. If they win again, they're 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good start, and as you said, you were talking about Knox, and even a guy like Hizonja, right? Like, who's kind of a guy now that's been in the program for a few years, and just definitely seen him starting to develop. They have good, solid young talent on the team, and that's good. This is what I've wanted for so long, because when the Knicks have been doing this whole thing with what they did with Carmelo for ever since the Ewing era ended. They've constantly traded tons of draft assets or just capital in general for overrated veterans, right? From back to the Antonio McDyess era to then, of course, the Melo era. I mean, that team, when you think about the Melo team, right? Or the team right before Melo came on board with Amar Stoudemire, and you had Felton and all those guys that are coming up. There weren't a lot of superstars, but hey, they had a solid team. They had a good foundation, and they had draft capital to build towards the future, right? And every time you trade your future for what they did for Carmelo, I mean, you kind of put yourself into a bind. And I've been pleading for this for so long, and I was waiting for them to get with Melo and waiting for them to move on and do things the right way. And I think the way they're doing it now, I think they're on the right path. Yes, they are still probably going to have to sign a big-time free agent or two. But, hey, man, they're on the right path. As you said, even if they do bad this year, they still have picks, right? So, man, it's at least a positive outlook, and I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also one other news that came out this week. I mentioned a few shows back that they shouldn't extend Kristaps Porzingis so they can have more cap room. And they actually announced this week that they won't extend him, so they do have more cap room. So this shows you they have some smart people in the room, and there's people giving advice, and the GM and Mills are listening to them. It's just not going rogue. Like, that's a very shrewd, smart move. Because Porzingis is not going anywhere. He's not leaving New York. And if he's healthy, the Knicks are going to pay him, and it's worth it, right? So you don't need to extend him. He ain't going anywhere else. Smart move, more cap room. Let's build this thing slowly. And I'm okay for being bad for one more year, because I would love to get a guy like Zion Williamson. I love him. I think he's a game changer. So I think we need one more high draft pick. I think, and we're good.
Yeah, and it's a very shrewd move because I mean, dude, he's for all that he's done and how much success he's had on the court. I mean, he's probably one of the most injury-prone stars, if you want to call him, in the NBA, right? I mean, you could think he's injured every single year. I mean, it's like clockwork, and
Yeah,
it's not if you're gonna invest a lot of capital into a guy like that, you need a guy to be have availability.
it's true. And that was one of the concerns, when they had him because just of his frame. He definitely needs to get stronger, but from what they're saying, it's nothing that's permanent or long term. He should be fine. So he just needs to get a little thicker, stronger, and bigger. You'd be surprised. Like if you look at some of these guys when they come into the NBA and how they look now with the NBA training, he definitely can get stronger. He definitely can.
Anthony
So,
Davis, right?
Anthony Davis, you should look at freaking Marcus Gasol. He looked like a whale when he was 18. No, I'm serious. Like he looked like it's crazy. Anyone go on Google, look at Marcus Gasol before he entered the draft and how he looks now. It's the craziest transformation I think I've seen.
You know who else was? Kevin Love was disgusting in college.
Yeah.
He was just.
Yeah.
He literally looked like a guy, just a tall dude you met at a bar.
Yeah.
Like, he looked disgusting.
No, exactly. Yeah. So there's some other stuff going on. What do you think about Jimmy Butler, man? What do you think is going on with him?
Dude, I cannot believe he's still in the Bucks. Look, I that was totally a situation I think that has somewhat played out in the past, where there's obviously discontent. He's, it's obvious that he doesn't get along with Towns and especially Wiggins. There's definitely, I feel like there's more tension between him and Wiggins than there is Towns, because there's been rumors about how Wiggins isn't like fully dedicated and he's really in it for the paycheck. Which I don't know enough about. I mean, obviously I'm not in the locker room, but he's obviously not happy being there. He's very discontent, right? But he's still there. He's still playing games with them. I don't know how that's going to play out, because the thing is too in the NBA, like it's a little different from from football, right? Like the NBA, dude, you're traveling with your teammates the entire season. Like you need, and it's a small group, right? Your team's not like 50, 60 people. Like you can't choose necessarily who your picks are. Like it's just your team. And I don't see how that possibly can last with him being there. I mean, they have to trade him eventually, right? Like, it's just almost uncomfortable. It's like cringeworthy.
No, I disagree. I don't think you trade him. No, I'm gonna tell you why. Because I know Tom Thibodeau, and if I was Percy GM, I'd love this. And I'm gonna tell you why. One thing about successful people, they have to thrive under chaos. All successful people, any profession, anywhere. And I think the thing is, I think this is gonna make Jimmy Butler better, and I think it's gonna make this tension, if they could get past it, right? The team can be better for it. And Tom Thibodeau is a very tough coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. He ain't no soft guy. He's not a sensitive dude. So it's like, when you have a relationship with a friend, like if you all had, like sometimes you have your ups and downs, sometimes you have this like conflict, right? But after that conflict, you become so much closer, right? Because you work things out, you talk it through, you see the other person's perspective, and you just become better friends because of this. And I think that's what can happen here. So if I was a GM, I wouldn't trade him because one, you're not going to get equal value, and you already have this is the best situation for Jimmy Butler. And you need 3 stars to win in the NBA. They have those 3 stars. Once you give up Jimmy Butler, it's done. Wiggins, Cat, it's going to be almost impossible for them to get that 3rd star. So you can't. You just have to ride this out at least the end of the year. And then maybe Jimmy Butler changes his mind. Because at the end of the day, you could also offer him the most money. Okay? You could offer him the most money. And Jimmy Butler's a dude who did not have a lot growing up. Basically nothing. He was like homeless, had a lot of issues. So he wants that money. So if you offer him that max, he might take it.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. And I know some people have come away with that viewpoint. But here's the thing, right? Do you honestly believe that if they'll give it to him, because that means they have to move on from one of the other two, right? I mean, are they going to be able to afford?
No, you could keep all three, and I'm sure one of them won't. So one of them won't take the max. I'm not sure. I don't know if Wiggins took the max or not because he already got extended. I have to check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone has to take less than. But it could be worked out. Their owner isn't the highest spender, but if you got a contender, he'll do that 130, 140 million dollars a year cap. He has to. You have no choice. He's been an owner too long, and at some point you're gonna want to win a title. And you know, I heard they're willing to pay him, so I think you do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope they can work it out because, I mean, that's, you know, obviously he's like 30 years old now. You know, those two up and coming rising stars, although some people will argue that Wiggins is kind of underachieved compared to what they thought he'd be, which is fair. But, you know, they're a talented team, man. And Milwaukee is also an up and coming city. They invested a lot of money in their downtown, and a lot of it is related to this team, right? And the owner, and obviously the foundation that they've built with the Bucks. And you know, I hope for them, and I hope for the NBA that they can work it out, because you know, those three, that they can definitely do some damage. I mean, I don't know if the team as is necessarily can contend for a championship, but at least they have the foundation, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota, and you mentioned Milwaukee, very underrated city. Minnesota too, both of them. Milwaukee, all their sports team, when they're good, they really support them. Green Bay, the Brewers. So you know, it'd be underrated sports town for them to be good. It's good for the NBA.
Yeah, for sure.
We also, so what's your, okay, so there's one thing I've noticed, you know, so LeBron, you know, they lost last night in their opener.
Yeah.
There's one thing about LeBron I've noticed, like every year, and this year I feel like he's going overboard. Like you see, he's having like all this fun and joking with the guys and stuff, and like, yeah, you're my boy, you're my boy. But what happens? What happens mid-season? Yo, trade this dude. You know, trade this dude. You know, like he. I feel like he's kind of fake. You know, and I respect him so much as a person and a human being, even more than Michael Jordan. But, like, it's like this shtick where, like, you're pretending to care about people you don't, you know? And I feel like, yeah, right now he's, like, all about these Lakers, but honestly, I don't even know if they're they're a team that's going to struggle to make the playoffs. And if for any chance they don't make the playoffs or the 8th seed, 7th seed, I think LeBron's going to start getting pissed off, because what are all the LA fans going to say? Oh, why are you not winning a championship? Are you better than Wilt Chamberlain? Are you better than Magic Johnson? Are you a top 5 Laker of all time? That's what they're going to say. And, dude, why can't you figure this shit out before you sign a contract? Dude, if you cared about your legacy and if you cared about your brand and your money, you'd go to New York, not LA. LA is the second biggest market. New York is number 1. You can't be the greatest of all time if you make so many bad decisions. And the greatest of all time, they don't make decisions. Oh, I want to be part of Hollywood and just like cruise for the last few seasons. Champions and GOATs don't do that. Look at Tom Brady. Even at this age, he's trying to win titles.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. This is my viewpoint on it, and I understand what you're saying, and I do think it is definitely a valid point that, you know, he is a little bit more lax about the situation compared to what you would typically think, especially even for LeBron, right? You know, as far as trying to win a championship, trying to be the greatest of all time, and yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I think most people know or understand this, that they're probably not going to contend this year. But you know what? I think he knows. I think, and this is the main difference from the other team, from when he's at Cleveland, when he's in Miami, and I think he knows that they're not going to compete for a championship. So I think, you know, as long as he keeps his expectations in line and isn't going crazy, as you said, in midseason and asking to trade the entire team like he was in Cleveland, pretty much every year he was there, you know, I think it can work. I think it'd be okay because he's working with a lot of young guys, and you know, as long as he can keep his expectations in line. Now, That's easier said than done, because obviously, because he's been winning his entire career, right? Like at a very, very high level. I don't even. I had to check the stats, but I don't even know what his worst season was. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't even that bad. I'm sure it was still top
No.
tier.
He's insane. He's always in good
Yeah,
health. He's insane.
yeah, and his entire team's been good, right? So I don't know how he'll take the somewhat level of mediocrity with the Lakers, because I think they probably will. They're probably going to be above average, right? I think that's consensus of what they'll probably end up being. But hey, if he can keep his expectations aligned and say, hey, this is a building year for me, a building year for the team, and kind of aim more for next year, I think they'll be okay. Again, I do agree with you. I'm not sure if that's what's going to end up happening, but I mean, we'll see. I'll tell you this though, and here's two very important components. One, that there is a lot of excitement here in, obviously I'm in SoCal. There's a lot of excitement behind LeBron James, but I will tell you that the pressure here is different from the pressure as far as being an athlete in New York, and it's just more laid back here. Let's just be completely honest about it. It just is. I mean, even when the Dodgers, because the Dodgers pretty much shit the bed recently in baseball, and a lot of people felt that they had a chance to make it to the World Series and be a dominant team. People weren't going crazy over it because people have other things to do here. You know what I mean? And so that's the culture here too. And I think he'll be able to weather that storm better because he is in LA, and I think it'll work to his advantage. I think he'll be okay, but we'll see.
Well, I have one question for you. Do you think that Lonzo Ball gets traded this year?
Yes.
He's completely forgotten.
But it's because he sucks. It's because he sucks.
He sucks. And have you noticed his dad's not talking as much shit anymore?
Yeah,
he's scared. He's scared because he wants to keep his kid in LA, and he wants him to play with LeBron. But you see this. There's a huge skill gap between Lonzo Ball, who his father claimed the greatest player ever to live, and LeBron. Just you can't be such a great player and not be able to score. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just need to make a correction because I haven't been following baseball too much. The Dodgers are actually in the league championship series in Game 6, and they're up 3-2 in the series. But I mean, that leads exactly to the point, right? Like, people aren't crazy about sports here. Like, they follow it, right? But they're not going to kill you. Like, if the Lakers are above average, they're not going to kill LeBron. If he was in New York and they're above average and they're below expectations, can you imagine the New York media?
But what do you
insane?
But what do you mean they're not killing him? They're already like Kobe fans are already like riding the streets and stuff. They're already killing him. They're already yes, I understand. Maybe you know better than I do. Is that all like because you're in LA? Is that blown out of proportion? But I think there's a huge group already that is like they're playing the uprising of LeBron hate.
Yeah, I mean there's always going to be that group, right? And especially because this is Kobe's town. He actually lives in Newport Beach where I work, and he still has that aura of him where he owns SoCal, right? And I understand that. And so LeBron coming in is kind of almost impeding on that a little bit, and that upsets people who have been LeBron haters their entire life. Yeah. But I mean, listen, man. As long as they win and they do well, I think it'll be okay. There's always going to be the detractors and people that hate on them, but I don't think it'll be that big a deal out of the day. But who knows? I guess we'll see.
Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. All right, moving on. We're going to start talking some NFL. We're going to start off with your beloved Giants. And what a dramatic year. I mean, you just know, like, this is going to just be a bad year. It's just one of those years. It's just nothing's going to happen. It's just chaos, drama, distractions. What's your take on all this and OBJ and what he's saying and everything going on?
Yeah, so here's the thing, and if you guys remember from our first podcast, like even before the NFL season, my my excitement about the Giants was timid to say the least. Like I thought they'd be better. Obviously, I thought the offense would be better, but I wasn't fully sold, to be quite honest, because one, they did obviously get rid of a couple of guys that I did like, and I wasn't crazy about a lot of the moves that Dave Gettleman made. But in particular, I was definitely not sold on Eli. And to be honest, for the last couple of years, I've been clamoring for the fact that, I think he's definitely not the same guy he used to be. I think he's definitely on the decline. And I think to a certain extent, he's held the Giants back significantly. That's not to say he still can't be a capable NFL quarterback, but he has to have a completely clean pocket, and he needs to be able to throw with no impeding pass rushers, which in this day and age in the NFL is pretty much impossible because everybody has to avoid pass rushers in one way or another. And I was very worried about that, and I think he's even surpassed my how bad I thought he potentially could be. And I think, let's just be honest about it, man. You can tell when a guy looks shot, and Eli looks shot. Yeah. I mean, he's gun shy. He's consistently worried about the rush. His arm isn't even the same. I don't think his arm strength is the same. His accuracy's been off. Now, I think that probably has to do with him being scared of the pass rush and his footwork being bad. But I think it starts with Eli. And let's be honest. I mean, and a lot of people talk about the O-line. Yeah, the O-line has been great. But dude, the O-line is like, I think it was like a ring came out as far as like pass rush, as far as like time in the pocket before a quarterback actually is like pressured. And I think they're like 21st or 22nd in the league. But dude, that's not even bottom tier. Like it's not in the top tier, but like there's other quarterbacks on the list who are doing very well this year. So like, what's the excuses that? And you have so many weapons. You have Odell, you have Ingram, who's been injured a little bit, but he's come back this week. You have Sterling Shepard. Saquon's probably like the best running back in the NFL right now.
He's really good. He's definitely like my expectations. Like he has surpassed that. He's good. He's gonna be a star. Probably if you draw off him.
Yeah, and he's been amazing. And it's like even with that, you still can't have a functionable offense. Like that starts with the quarterback, and I think it's such a perfect example when you think about other teams. Even the Jets, right? I mean, the Jets don't have even nearly the same amount of offensive skill players, and their offense is putting up a lot more points. And it just comes out to the fact, as a lot of people know, this is a quarterback-driven league, and you have to be able to play quarterback in this league and get top-tier quarterback play in order to be successful. And I think that's what you're seeing now. And the Giants just have to move on from the line. And it's something that I've been hoping for. I was hoping before the season came in, but I knew because of what happened last year with all the fans going crazy, like, oh my God, why are you benching Eli? It's so disrespectful. They bench him because he sucks, because he's done. That's why. And they should have stuck to that. And management should have put their foot down and not listened to fans and kept him on the bench and moved on from the offseason. But they didn't, and it's a mistake that they made, and we're paying for it now. And hopefully we won't pay for it for the next decade. But that's my Giants rant, and it sucks. But I got to be honest, right? It just is what it is.
Can you do that voice again? Is it possible to do that little high?
Oh my God, Eli Manning! Oh my God, so disrespectful. It's ridiculous. You guys are ridiculous. This is your fault. You Giants fans who were complaining about this is your fault. I mean, I was so happy when they met. I'm like, finally. I mean, let's move on, man. Let's keep this. Let's do the right thing. I mean, he's well past his prime. But it's the Giants. That's on Giants ownership too, man. You can't give in to that, dude. Like,
let me tell you, Mara is terrible. He is terrible. This is the first time he's actually has to do something. Have you noticed that? He's never been a big media guy. He never had to be because, he had Tom Coughlin, right? Who could handle everything. But now, like, you can see how incompetent he is. He's a trust fund baby. That's all it is. He's a trust fund baby that's way in over his head. He can't do, like, if he didn't have money, he'd be nowhere near a management position. in NFL organization or maybe anything actually. I mean, he's just you're just too soft. You just look like you're in over your head and you don't know what's going on. And you're also, I understand OBJ is saying a bunch of stuff, but he shouldn't say anything about OBJ publicly either. He should say, yo, dude, get into my office, be quiet, don't say anything. All right? We'll work this out. I got you. Just keep your mouth shut. Let's get through this season and we'll figure it out later. But obviously he doesn't even have those social skills.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't go as far as to say he's absolutely terrible. And as far
He's
as
absolutely
maybe no, but he's
gotten lucky.
He won 2 Super Bowls though under his regime and under his leadership. Although the first one you can argue was more his dad, because that was closer to what his that was mostly his dad's team. But yeah, I mean, look, he's been stumbling a lot, and yeah, I think that what you said with the Odell thing, 100% agree.
Listen, if you inherit $1 billion, right, hypothetically, right, you can have $1 billion for a few years. But eventually, if you don't know business, if you don't know how to manage your money, it's going to go down, right? That net worth, it's going to go down. So, yes, you can be good and you can win Super Bowls and do this for a few years, but eventually your true self comes out and your ability comes out. And that's what we're seeing now. Like, the thing is, like, Woody, I don't know if you know this, but almost every New York team is basically a trust fund kid. Besides, I think the Mets. Every owner is a trust fund kid. But I trust even Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson better. No, to get them through a bad time. I don't think they're great owners. But I'm just saying in terms of just pure competence as a businessman, Woody is way better of a businessman than Mara. Way better.
Based on what?
Based on that, he's still like, dude, all right, let me ask you. Forget you don't like Trump, right? Or anyone, whatever your opinion is of him. Do you think that Mara would ever be offered an ambassadorship to UK? Do you think he's that smart of a dude?
Dude, no. John Mara has a lot of connections. He has a lot of connections, and he's a very powerful man.
Yes, you can have a lot of connections, right? You can have a lot of rich friends, but that doesn't mean your rich friends are going to give you a position of power.
Well,
I'm just seeing him. Yo, dude, he's not a smart dude. Stop saying that. He's not, like, I still hear Woody. Woody has a business sense. Mara is way in over his head. It's the same thing, right? You said about Eli. Like,
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about. I understand your whole point about bashing Mara. I think has a lot of merit. But to say that Woody Johnson all of a sudden is a better owner.
No, he's not a better.
He's so many terrible mistakes.
Woody Johnson is not a better owner. What I'm saying is that during a tough stretch, like, this is the first time Mara has to deal with adversity. When has he dealt with adversity in his life, right? You could say the same thing about Woody too, but I just think you're gonna see him just like crumble. Like, you see his face, it turns red. He's nervous. He's scared. He's uncomfortable. You know what? What do I say about successful people? You have to thrive under chaos. I don't think he's a dude who will ever thrive under chaos. And I think it's going to be a long time before the Giants are good again. And you know what? That's okay. You're going to go, a team can go through a bad stretch. But I think what's happening with the Giants is they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're making it worse than it has to be.
Well, that I completely agree. I think they are making it worse than it has to be. I think so. A lot of the points you're saying, I mean, there is some validity to it. I don't definitely agree with a lot of it, but I will say that he is trying to clamor too much to the fans and trying to get too involved in the media versus just being an owner. Yes. And I think he's given in way too much to that. And he's made some bad decisions, and I think last year rolling with Eli, that was such a bad decision, and of course just firing McAdoo even after they agreed to pretty much pension as a organization together, and then firing the GM as well. Just kind of scapegoating both of them. It was a bad idea, and I think. Going back into the well to try to get Dave Gettleman because he's a former Giants, I think that was a bad decision. Because I think Dave Gettleman's stuck in 1999, trying to think that getting 400-pound guards and running team with. It's the whole thing is ridiculous, and I'm not going to get into it because I get super frustrated because I can't stand Dave Gettleman. But yes, it's been bad, and I will just leave you with this: for all you guys who've been sucking the kneecap of Eli Manning, and this is before this year, but for the last 3 seasons before this year, with Odell Beckham. And then it goes to your point of how Mara has been criticizing OBJ for saying the stuff that he's saying because he's frustrated. With Odell Beckham, Eli Manning has a 63.3% completion percentage. He's had 66 touchdowns, 29 interceptions, with a quarterback rating of 91.5. Without Odell, 60.4%, 14 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and 75 quarterback rating. 66 touchdowns versus 29 interceptions versus 14 and 14. Think about how significant of a difference that is. And I will say this 100 times over and over again. The only reason Eli's even in the league right now still is because Odell Beckham has been carrying him.
Right. I feel you, man. I feel you. I've been a Jets fan. I get it. It sucks when you go through just all this stuff. Well, you know what? You can't. You got to take a trade-off. You can't have success, I guess, forever. You gotta. If you have this slump, you may appreciate the success later on and the success you had in the past. So I think for Giants fans, this will be a humbling experience, and for Jets fans now have a chance to be the team in New York. That they have the chance, because if they have their franchise quarterback in Sam Darnold, who I thought last week had his best game, because Andrew Luck was trying to fight back in that game and trying to come back, and I thought he was. I was like, oh man, he gets the ball back, they're gonna win. But no, Darnold did good. I was very impressed. He's still gonna have more ups and downs, but this is a very big week for the Jets. They're playing the Vikings, and personally, I think they're gonna get blown out. But if they win this game, they become a playoff contender. So it's a big game for them. Darnold wasn't my favorite QB coming out.
That's putting it nicely.
But there was one thing. This is the thing, right? A few weeks ago, you hear, we want to fire Todd Bowles after one loss. I don't know if that was true. That was ridiculous. Give the dude some, and you see he's won every game since, and the team rallies around him. And I don't like defensive coaches, but I say over and over again, he gets the best out of players. So if Sam Darnold is in Arizona, I don't think he's the same quarterback. I don't, but I think he's in a good situation. I think he's in a good situation where he can at least he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And have some good years at least, right? As long as they keep Todd Bowles, right? If they fire Todd Bowles and they go through a new regime and they make a mistake, they hire the wrong guy, then no, I don't think it's that. If Darnold is looking good, it doesn't matter what their record is. They have to at least give Bowles one more year.
Yeah, I definitely. The whole fire Todd Bowles thing was ridiculous. It
was ridiculous. It was after 2 weeks.
Considering what the team is as of right now, as it's currently constructed, plus a rookie quarterback, I don't even know how you could possibly be that upset if you're a losing game. Seriously, the only thing that the main objective for this year should be growth, right? I don't understand why people were talking about firing him. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. But again, that's the whole New York thing, right? Everyone always overreacts to everything. And I think it'll be the same thing. Look, as I said with Sam Darnold, after week 1, I think obviously it was the right choice by the Jets. And I don't really think it was, God, I'm forgetting. What's the GM's name for the Jets?